If you're like me, you're probably someone who likes to get one more task done. I like to call this one more task-itis. The impact is, unfortunately, we end up late for meetings. We also end up going to bed way too late. We blink and it's 11 p.m., 12 p.m., 1 a.m., and we end up tired for the next day. Today, I'm going to share with you an incredible ancient spiritual lesson that may just help you to get over one task-itis. Yes, I've read Atomic Habits and Getting Things Done and all the productivity books, and they all have wonderful, wonderful insights and strategies for us. The book I'm going to share with you today is actually 5,000 years old, and I think it might just have the solution to one task-itis. Welcome to the HP3 show. It's all about high performance, high profit, and high purpose. And I really like the purpose part. My name is Tim Francis. I'm an entrepreneur located in Austin, Texas. I'm a former college athlete, now turned intellectual athlete. And I grew up as an athlete where it really was valued to be the first in the gym and the last one out. Also, both my parents more or less grew up on farms where there was a huge emphasis on an honest day's work for an honest day's wage. And like you, I've read so many of the productivity books, and oftentimes there's an emphasis over do just 1% more than the next person and you too can get ahead. No wonder you and I are stuck in one task-itis over and over and over again for years, and in my case, decades. Now, the book I'm talking about was written over 5,000 years ago. This is it. It's called the Bhagavad-gītā. It's from India, and it actually predates Christianity, and it's a mix of spirituality and philosophy. Just this morning during my own spiritual study, I was really wrestling with how can I possibly improve my sleep habits and not feel like maybe guilty for not working like every single minute of the day. So the Bhagavad-gītā, it starts by explaining something fascinating. It talks about how the world is actually split into two parts. The first is that which will be crushed by time, and the other is that which will not be crushed by time. That which will be crushed by time are things like our bodies, our bank accounts, our businesses. Given enough time, actually our cities and our countries will be destroyed. And even if you think about thousands or tens of thousands of years or hundreds of thousands of years, sooner or later, even planet Earth will be destroyed. So that is what will be crushed by time. What will not be crushed by time are items like time itself, like God, like love, like our souls. That will never be crushed by time. Now, if you think about it, if we are attached to that which will be crushed by time, like bank accounts or a car or a house or even a spouse or kids or parents, the degree to which we are attached to that, we are guaranteed to be devastated at some point. Now, maybe there's something beautiful and poetic about loving and then losing love. I'm not here to dispute that. Just that a lot of our suffering comes from attachments to those things that predictably are going to go away sooner or later. And when we really think about those items that will not be crushed by time, it's not that many things. So it's almost kind of like it's weighted way unequally. There's just a few things that will never be crushed by time, and almost everything else is crushed by time. The Bhagavad-gītā also explains that we get trapped by our senses. The human existence is so driven by our senses and our mind. So that could be our gross senses like hearing, touching, seeing, tasting, and smelling. We're also driven by what's called our subtle senses like our mind, our intelligence, and our false ego. And that is all what's called not the spiritual plane, but the material plane. And on the material plane, we are so driven not just by our senses, but we're driving towards two very, very powerful motives. One is desire and the other is hate. Desire and hate drive us like crazy. Desire is what has us say, I've got to make this amount of money. Hate is what drives us when we say, those people are against me. And our world is absolutely at a red line of desire and hate. And as long as we are stuck in this material plane, we will continue to be driven by desire and hate. We will be driven by our senses, gross and subtle, to pursue and be driven by desire and hate. So that is the existence on the material plane. And as long as we stay in that consciousness, we're probably in a pretty tough spot. The thing is, as Einstein said, the thinking that got us to this problem is not the thinking that's going to get us to a solution. So if we're never going to win the game as long as we're on the material plane and we're driven by desire and hate, then what's available to us? Well, there's one very powerful alternative, and that is not to be material conscious, but to actually be God conscious, to be spirit conscious. Now, every single one of us is a spark of God. We are not the bonfire. God is much bigger. We are still a spark from that bonfire. So God is in all of us. And if you were to summarize the Bhagavad-gītā in one sentence, the whole thing, 5,000 years old and 700 verses, it's this one line, it's do it for God. If everything in our lives, we do it for God, that gets us out of this misery of being driven by desire and hate. And that could be the tasks that we do. It could be how we eat. It could be how we sleep. It could be how we speak. Everything, if it's done for God, now we can get out of the misery of the material world. So this brings an interesting comment about balancing. What does it mean to do it for God? If I am thinking that I'm the only person who drives everything, that if it's to be, it's up to me, then I'm actually ignoring the spirit influence that happens. Maybe in your life you've had an experience where you really, really wanted something, you did all the right things, but it just didn't work out. But then 6 months later, you found out that it wasn't a good thing for you in the first place and something better came along. I believe that's the hand of God. In a different video, I'll get into what the 5 factors are that have to happen for something to come true. 4 of them are in our control, including our effort, but the 5th is actually the hand of God. I love the quote from St. Augustine, who's a 4th century Christian bishop and philosopher. He said, "Work like it all depends on you, pray like it all depends on God." So when it comes to getting God conscious in how we think about one more task-itis, the thing is there's only so much that we can do in a day that actually is wise. After that point, we're just driving ourselves to exhaustion. And if we're tired, we actually can't do it for God at the same level tomorrow as we did today. If we are going to die 5 years early because we didn't take care of our bodies, we're not actually maximizing our time on this planet to be able to do it for God. And so when I think about one more task-itis, it's actually quite the indulgence into my own mind and all of that desire and desire and desire. And it completely is missing the bigger picture, which is doing it for God. So I think one of the greatest antidotes I could ever have to get past one more task-itis is to get into God consciousness and to find that balance between, you know what, I'm going to work like it all depends by me for whatever, 10 hours a day, 12 hours a day, whatever that number is. And that work could be in business or at home, in your home life. But I'm going to be striving for some amount of time. And after that, it's up to God what happens. And my new job is to invest into rest and recover so that I can bring the heat again tomorrow in the spirit of the Spirit. If you found this to be helpful, do like and subscribe to this video. And I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Until then, I am Tim Francis, and I will see you in the next one.